Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Today we are going to be installing front brakes on this 2001 Buick LeSabre Custom with the 3.8 liter Series 2. And this isn't going to be your typical brake job, as in we're going to be installing all new parts. So if you're looking for a brake job that shows you how to clean up your existing hardware and to do a traditional brake job where you're just doing either brake pads or brake pads and rotors, this video might not be 100% informational for you. What we're installing today is the PowerStop brake kit, which gives you the calipers, the brake pads, the hardware for the caliper brackets, and the cross-drilled and slotted zinc-coated rotors. You have to be careful when you install these because there is a labeled there. There is a front driver's side and front passenger side. We're just doing the fronts. This is for the 15-inch wheel. So if you're looking for the part number, we got it right there. It's going to be KC2553, and it's the front kit for whenever you have the 15-inch wheels, because it does make a difference. These cars also came equipped with 16-inch wheels, which have larger caliper brackets as well as larger rotors. So keep that in mind when you're looking to order your stuff. I'm not sponsored by PowerStop. Wish they would, but I'm not. I paid for this out of my own pocket. Some basic hand tools you're going to need is some sockets. I have this ratcheting breaker bar, hammer, brush for like a wire brush for cleaning up any rust that could have built up on like the hub surface. I have the luxury of air tools and impact tools. I have one of these little one-man bleeders that come with the hose and everything for bleeding the brake line, because we're going to have to disconnect the brake hydraulic system. I got some brake lubricant, which is a special high-temp silicone grease. You don't want to use regular grease on the caliper sliders. Got some brake parts cleaner here. I just grabbed that at Walmart. I like having some of this blaster surface shield, but that's optional to spray the hub face to keep the caliper from rusting to it. Some thread lock. This is just the stuff that I got here. Really any kind of decent thread lock. Probably optional. I usually don't use it, but since I'm making a YouTube video, we'll try to keep this as professional as possible. And that is for the caliper bracket bolts. And yeah, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing I've done here is I have, once again, the luxury. Unfortunately, you can do this with a basic jack and jack stands. Obviously, make sure you jack up your vehicle in the proper locations at your own risk. And like I said, I have the luxury of this Vevor 7,000 pound quick jack system. I don't think they actually call it a quick jack. I just think they call it a car jack lift kit, I guess. And I made my own blocks for this. Do that at your own risk, but those wooden blocks work a lot better than those rubber pads. They just kind of smash whenever you put them on the pinch weld, so they're probably not meant for that. And I've positioned my quick jack in place. There is another video if you're interested in seeing that. Check out my channel, Blazer Guy 1983, all one word, and that will show you a review of my quick jack lift that I got in May. I think I've lifted so far probably about 10 different vehicles on it. So I won't go too into depth on how this works since this is a brake job video, but I'll just go ahead and demonstrate real quick. I'll just hit the button. You see the car lifting there. And once the front wheel starts to leave the ground, I like to stop, set my controller down, and just go take a quick look at everything, just to kind of make sure that, you know, everything's in the right place, which that feels good. That looks good. You know, give the car a little shimmy shake while it's still not far off the ground. Go around, check the other side. All right, everything looks good. It's all on the pinch weld there. So there's these little locks that you have to make sure that you lock into place once you get to the desired level. There's two different height settings. You want to let it on the locks, not on the hydraulics when you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish lifting this, and then when we bring you back here, it'll be only seconds for you. We'll go ahead and start ripping into the brake job here for you. Okay, so we got the vehicle fully lifted and secured. I have it on the locking mechanisms that come on my lift. Make sure you use jack stands for safety. Look up in your owner's manual or go online and see how to properly lift your vehicle for safety. Always want to take safety first. So now that we have the vehicle lifted and supported, One of the things I do, this is just optional, just a bonus thing, I just like to kind of go back and forth and check for any play in either the ball joint or in the tie rod or inner tie rod. This has a little bit of play in it, but most of that is actually within the rack, unfortunately, just because the rack's kind of worn. It's got a lot of miles. It's an old car, so to be expected. So we're going to go ahead and rip off this tire here. I'm going to show you how that's done. I'm trying to get you out of the sunlight a little bit if possible here. This here is a decorative cover. If you have a hubcap, you take that off and go ahead and pull this decorative cover off, put it in a safe place so it doesn't get lost or broken or stepped on. These are going to be 19mm on here, which is the 19mm is what takes off the lug nuts. We'll go ahead and do that. Now, if you do not have air tools like I do, and you're doing this out with just hand tools, it might be a good idea before you fully jack the vehicle completely off the ground, when you still have some of the weight of the vehicle on the tire. It's probably recommended to try to break these loose with tire iron or some kind of you know, breaker bar or something, while you still have some of the weight of the vehicle on here to keep the wheel from spinning or anything. So noise alert, we'll go ahead and loosen these up. I'm actually going to put these in my magnetic dish over here. Okay, those in the dish. We're going to take my wheel. I'm actually going to take it over here out of the road because I'm going to clean it before I put it back on. I picked up some wheel acid to clean his wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the key, not start the car, but just turn the key in the run position. I'm going to turn the wheel out here all the way to the left. Driver's side. And what this is going to do is this is going to give you better access to the fasteners that you have to remove to do this job. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and figure out what size bolts these are. If I were to take a guess, I would say they look like 15s for the caliper, and they are. We're going to sit that to the side and put our 19 away for the time being. We won't need that for a little bit. I have an extension here. Chair keeps getting caught on the blocks. All right. We're just going to zip these loose real quick here. Like so. The top one there. Hopefully you're picking all this up good. Like that. This is technically what I just did optional, because at the end of the day, we're replacing everything anyway. I just figured I'd show you that these are 15s if you're doing a regular brake job and you're not doing it the partial or just replacing of everything like I am. These things can get really stuck in there, so of course I grabbed the wrong wrench. So one of the tricks you can do is to pull them out like this. Put the wrench on them and go like that, and then you can pull them out. There's one. And I'm not worried about these hitting the ground or anything weird, because they're getting replaced anyhow, but I will still put them aside. So now a little bit of controversy on this. I personally have never had this hurt anything. I'm just going to pinch off this brake line so we don't lose a ton of fluid all over the place. One of these little things, you can get them for a mile. You can also use vice grips, put like rubber hose on some straight vice grips so that you don't damage the line. I just like doing this because I don't want to lose a ton of fluid. The fluid in this system is actually pretty new. I've changed it within a reasonable amount of time. So let me make sure you guys are still in a good frame of view here. All right, good. We're just going to go ahead and snug that down. Like I said, I know a lot of people are probably like, why are you doing that? But it just keeps brake fluid from going everywhere. So because we're going to be changing the calipers anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just take it upon myself right now just to zip that off. That's going to be the fastener for the brake hose. Can't remember what size it is off the top of my head. It might have been a 12. I'm trying to remember. It could be different because they're actually, it's an 11mm. It could be different on yours because these hoses are aftermarket. So So we'll just go ahead and get in there and put that on there. Probably a little bit extreme doing it this way, but there we go. It's a little easier. Now I'm going to get my drip pan ready because some fluid is probably going to come out. Not much. I'm going to keep my banjo nut. This is your banjo bolt. This is the part you're going to have to keep and reuse. I do have new copper crush washers. We can just get rid of them. So you're going to have fluid coming out of the caliper there. Okay, and then while that's doing its thing, we're going to go ahead and crack off the caliper bracket bolts that hold the whole caliper on. So these are just what holds the caliper onto the bracket and has the slider so the caliper can slide back and forth on here. And back here, there's going to be two 15mm fasteners that bolt to the knuckle. And what that does is that gives you the ability to hold the entire assembly to the whole entire bracket for that to that. So I just want to make sure you guys are in good view because I got a lot of sunlight out here, so I can't really see what you're seeing, unfortunately. I usually use a lighter impact gun, but this one here has got a little bit more girth, a little bit more HPs, if you will. So hopefully it can just zip these off without having to get the breaker bar out. Recommend doing this on a cool vehicle. Yeah, there it is. Find it. Oh, there we go. So those came right out. We're going to clean those up too before I put them back in. Go ahead and do the top one here, which is right here. There we go. Move your bucket in. Keep those because you're reusing those. Okay. So now the whole caliper and its bracket is now loose. So we should be able to, at this point, just take this guy off of here and set it aside. If this is really stuck on the rotor, you can get a really heavy-duty flat head screwdriver and put in air and pry this, and that'll help compress this piston in a little bit. So that's just a little quick pro tip for you. It's actually a rock inside here. That's interesting. Inside the rotor. So we'll just sit this down in here, let it leak. Brakes actually aren't terrible on here. There's still a lot of meat left, but the rotors are really getting pretty rusty, and during inspection they brought that up. So I figured, well, let's put something on here that's going to last a little longer. And I know from experience that these zinc coated rotors that PowerStop have actually hold up really well. They don't really rust. So I figure we'll go with that, and especially since this car's not driven that much. So we'll go ahead and pull this rotor off. Mine's a little warm, so I'm trying to be careful here. Alright, so that's done. So I'm going to pause you guys for a minute, get some cleaner gloves on, get some stuff out of the way and cleaned up, and then I'll bring in for a closer observation here. Okay, and we're back. So what I'd like to do is, now this one's actually fairly clean here. As you can tell, that wheel hub is actually not that old. It's been replaced, so there's not a whole lot I have to do, but I do like to go in there and clean up any surface rust on there, because if there's anything uneven on here, it's going to cause your rotor to sit unevenly on here. So I just like to give it a quick, it's just a wire wheel on a drill basically. And what that does is, like I said, that cleans up the face of the hub, because that way you don't have any unevenness. Now there's no like high spots on here, but this is a angle air grinder with a little bit of a pad on here for cleaning this up. I'm going to just go over it in a couple areas just to touch it up. It's going to be kind of loud, so noise alert. That's like very clean. So I'm also going to clean up these two mating surfaces right here, which is where the caliper bracket bolts to. So we'll have a nice clean mesh or union or whatever you want to call it. Okay. Very clean, so that's good. That's what you want. We'll get this out of the road. And then next thing I'm going to do is you can also get one of these neat tools too. So this goes on your drill, and this spins on here like this on your drill to clean this up too around the studs. Mine is actually really shiny because, like I said, this wheel hub's clearly not that old. So, but I just figured I'd demonstrate. You know, this obviously spins a lot faster when you're on the drill, but this gives you the idea. The only other thing I want to do is I'm going to take this brush here and just clean right there. Just want to make sure all those areas around there are clean. I know this might be overkill, but this goes a long way. So, okay, so next thing we're going to do is I'm going to give it a little shot of the brake clean here. Pull my bucket here because I don't want my hydraulic hose getting all covered with this stuff for my lift. All right, so that's nice and clean. Let that drip dry, and while that's drying, and we're going to go ahead and prep all the other stuff for doing the caliper and the caliper bracket, get that all prepped for doing the install here. So we'll do that here now. So I don't think these rotors are coated with any kind of stuff from the factory because they come with this little package in here to keep them dry, but I'm still going to, just for precautionary purposes, take some clean paper towel here, and I'm going to take some brake clean, and I'm going to put some on this rag liberally, can't speak today, and I'm just going to clean up the surface of this rotor here to make sure there's no, I think it calls it, call it cosamine, I think it's called, probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's a grease that a lot of times manufacturers put on rotors to prevent them from rusting in the packaging. You want to get that off because your brake pads can create, it'll ruin the brake pads more or less and create hot spots. So that's done. I'm going to leave that lay there for the time being. Next thing I like to do, and like I said, this is kind of an optional thing, this is just something I do because we're in the rust belt here, is I take some of this surface shield here. The surface shield is like fluid film, and I'm just going to give this a good liberal coating here on the hub. Just kind of go around, get the back too if you can. This will help to keep the wheel hub from rusting too. Probably way too much, but it, you know, like I said, it keeps the rotor from corroding to the hub. So let that kind of do its thing for a minute, and then I'll take a lug nut backwards. Actually, I'm just gonna pat up some of this because it's a little bit too heavy. Probably way too much I put on there. Make sure you have the right one. This one here says front driver's side. Go ahead and squeeze that on there like so. And then I'm going to put the lug nut on backwards. Well, at least I thought I was going to. Let me try to find a better lug nut here. Come on. And what that's going to do is it's going to hold this rotor in place so it's not flopping around while we're trying to hook the bracket up. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our new caliper from PowerStop here, which is pretty. It's coated red, and we're going to go ahead and prep it. I like to make sure that everything's greased before I assemble everything, so we'll do that next. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and make sure this caliper is prepped. So by doing that, I got it laying here in a nice plastic so it doesn't scratch this new coating that's on here. And I'm going to break off these caliper slide bolts, take them out completely, and then we're going to check to make sure they're greased properly. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so there's usually things here, and I don't know what I did with the other ones, but there's usually rubber grommets on these that go inside the bracket. They're really stuck in there. I was going to try to pick them out, but I don't want to damage them, so I'm just going to leave them be. They shouldn't be a problem. Usually I like them to be on the actual slider pin when it goes in, but I think we should be all right. I will apply additional grease there. But before I go any further, the one thing I like to do here is I'll take your caliper bracket here, and I like to, now if you're reusing your caliper, you're going to want to clean all this stuff up, obviously. I like to apply some of this grease right in here where the actual hardware goes. And what this is going to do is this is going to prevent, well, not prevent, but if you're in a rust belt, it'll help it slow the rust build up in there. That can cause what they call, what we call rust jacking, where it actually applies pressure to the brake pad and causes it to squeeze and then not be able to move freely like it should be moving. So I just put a little bit in that section there. If you're reusing your old caliper brackets, you're going to want to make sure you use some kind of file or some kind of coarse wire wheel to, you know, you don't want to polish the rust. You want to make sure you get it out of there, but you don't want to take too much off either, because you need to be able to have this the correct clearances here. Otherwise your pad will be bouncing around too much. So that should do. Let me get the grease out of the way here. And now that we did that, I'm going to grab the hardware here. Now it actually comes with it, which is kind of nice. It comes with the hardware with the pads, which I usually use that because typically my experience is, I mean, it's the same company, but my experience is usually, for some reason, the hardware with the pads is usually better. I don't know why, but it's always kind of been my thing when I'm doing this. I've noticed over the years. And these little hardware clips kind of go in like this, I believe, unless I'm doing it wrong. Probably doing it wrong because I'm funny when you're doing it on camera how it messes with you, you know. When you're doing it for an audience, it's like it takes a minute to figure out what you're doing. All right, and that slides in like so. And you don't need to put any grease on the inside. I recommend not doing that. I'm gonna make sure there's no grease from here too that's going to touch on your rotor here. What do I do? There's the other hardware. I could do this 100 times in my sleep, but as soon as you go to do it on camera, you start messing up. Okay, there you go. So that's set in nice. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install the bracket onto the knuckle. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to get the camera positioned here, hopefully where you can get a good view of what's going on here. And I'm going to go ahead and reinstall or install the caliper bracket. I'll look up the torque specs here for you, but do your own research on that. I don't want to be liable for giving you wrong information here. Try to get over there with you guys. Okay, just going to put a little Loctite on these. I don't think it's 100% required, but we'll do it. Put that down there. Do the other one. Pretty sure it comes with some form of Loctite from the manufacturer, but I never really looked it up that closely. Okay. That in there, put the lid back on it. Okay, and your caliper bracket is going to install like so. And then let me get one of these bolts ready here. I'm gonna run it through there. Hopefully you're seeing that. Try to catch it here. It's sometimes a little tricky when you're trying to record. I usually try to get up and in here so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see, where is it? Oh, there we go. So that's started. Always want to start all this stuff by hand, like so, and then we'll torque those to specs here momentarily. Let me get the bottom one in. There we go. And the advantage of cleaning up your hardware is being able to screw most of these bolts in by hand. That's how you know you did a good job. And I just take them to like a wire wheel and a bench grinder to clean those up. Okay, so let me grab the 15. We're just gonna tighten them up real quick, just so they're snug. And then we'll do it with the torque wrench here. Okay, and we'll do it with the torque wrench here in a moment. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install your pads here, your brake pads. This is your brake pads that you get from PowerStop. And open them up. Set the new ones aside so they don't fall. So the way this usually works is your leading edge of your pad should have the sensor, the anti-squeal sensor on it, or squeal sensor I should say. It's just your brake level indicator to tell you that your brakes are low, the pads, and it's basically when it gets to this level, it actually makes noise against the rotor. You want it on your leading edge. So let me see here. That means that the wheel's going to go this way down because you're spinning forward. So this little clip here should probably be on your leading edge, facing down on this side, and it's going to be on the inside. And then it just plops in like that. And then the outer pad does not have a wear indicator on it. And you just want to kind of slide it into place like so. And they should move nice and freely like that. See how nice they move? That is a good brake job. That means they can move freely, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install that brake caliper. Before I do that, one of the things I like to do to the caliper is I like to get in here and make sure you guys are seeing everything still, and it looks like you are. I like to take a little bit of this same grease and put it on the inside of this piston face in here, like that. Okay, can get a nice layer of grease, get a little bit more on my finger here. And then I like to do also the ears here as well. Not too much, but liberal enough, you know. And that helps cut down on vibration noise. And, you know, if you're really feeling frisky, you know, you could even technically just put some on the back of this pad too, as long as you don't get it on the friction material. And that just helps cut down on a lot of the squealing and squeaks if there's any movement. So then we can go ahead and just pop this guy on like this. We're gonna pull these little boots in. Get this on here. You gotta be mindful of your little rubber booties that they don't get squished. Be a little tricky. There you go, because you want to pinch them in there like that, like so, and kind of work them and caress them into place. Probably not a good word to use, but we'll use it. Then we'll take your slider pins. I like to add, you don't want to put too much on these, but it is a good idea to obviously have enough. So what's enough? I'd say use your own judgment. Because if you put too much on, then it can actually cause these to create almost like a vacuum effect where it pushes out and pushes pressure on to the caliper. Let me find something to wipe my hands off with here. These are looking really good. We'll go ahead and just kind of carefully maneuver that in there like that. There we go. Now get the other one, get it lubed up. Yeah, sometimes I don't feel like they put quite enough on there on the assembly line. They're building these, so I like to add a little extra. Get that one started down there. Like so. Okay. Let me see here. I believe those are 15s. So we'll get that started. And then we can just run them down like that. And we'll check the torquing specs on those here in a little bit. So next thing I need to do, I'm going to get my grease out of the way and make a little room here. We're going to work on getting the caliper ready to receive the brake hose here. So let me get you in here, make sure you can see that good. And I'm going to clean off that real quick to make sure it's nice and clean and rust free. So we'll do that. Let me find my tool here. Get you in there. We'll go ahead and a little bit of a noise alert here. Okay, get that out of the road. Grab my brake clean. We're going to give that a little bit of a douching to clean it up a little bit. Okay, get my rag, and I'll wipe that off here. Make sure that's nice and clean. These hoses, I'd recommend replacing them if you're going to go through all this effort. These hoses are probably don't even have 1,000 miles on them yet, to be honest with you. So they're pretty clean still. Go ahead and remove this little thingy for protecting it. And reuse our banjo bolt. We're going to make sure it's clean. This is your banjo bolt, and the way it works is it has little orifices here, so the fluid goes in there and it squirts out there and there, and it goes into the caliper, and that's what fills it up. I got some new crush washers here, copper crush washers. It actually came with them, so that's nice. So one goes on like this, and then the other one goes on the other side. So we'll put that one through there, and then this one goes on like that, and then you can go ahead and screw that into the caliper there. Okay, and then I'll figure out what that is. I think, what did we say that was early in 11, right? I believe that was an 11 millimeter, if I'm not mistaken. Just got to figure out what I did with it. I'm going to pause you guys. I'm going to look for my 11 millimeter, and we'll go ahead and get that tightened up for you. Okay, guys. Went ahead and tightened that down off camera. Had a little weird issue here. So this has a the caliper here has I guess a part that sticks out that squares in and lines up with this guy, the hose, and the hole wasn't lined up with the brake hose. Really bizarre. I don't know if it's because it's an aftermarket hose. I don't advise doing this, but I took it over to the sander and just took a little bit off of the end of the hose, because when I put it in, the banjo bolt kept wanting to go crooked, and it was because this brake hose wouldn't sit flush with the back of the caliper little ear that sticks out back here where my finger is, because it's supposed to keep it square and in line. Little strange. So I did take a little bit of material off, nothing that would be like catastrophic to worry about, and then I was able to tighten it down and screw that on there. I don't know the torque spec on that, but I usually just use common sense on that. So before we start bleeding, I'm going to go ahead and grab my torque wrench, and we're going to start torquing this stuff down for you. So from what I read on the internet, the caliper bracket bolts, which are right here, and there's one right there, from what I'm reading, those are 137 pound-feet of torque, or foot-pounds, or whatever you'd like to say. Either way, I'm going to try to get on there and torque them. I'll go a little bit further, and that's just simply because you lose a little bit of torque when you have an extension like I do on. So just a little bit more of a, not even a quarter of a turn. Or I'll just go a little further for purposes of that you're losing some torque. And then when I read these bolts here, and here for the caliper that actually holds it onto the actual bracket here. So this guy and this guy here, looks like it's 23 pound-feet of torque. So let's back my torque wrench off. So let's see here. Okay. Probably could do this without the extension. It might be easier. Now it's not clicking, but that's as tight as I'm going to go. Doesn't seem to want to get to it. Okay. Yeah, I don't think this torque wrench can go that low. That's why. So we're going to go tight, but not overly tight, because you will pull the threads out of there if you're not careful, and you don't want to pull the threads out of your brand new bracket, because that would stink. So without further ado, I don't see any reason why at this point we can't go ahead and just take this loose. This will let the fluid start pumping or flowing back in, like so. And then we'll go ahead and take this little rubber cap off of here. This little rubber cap is what protects the bleeder. I can get it off of there. Come on, guy. There we go. Kind of looks like that. It's just a little boot. Put that in there so I don't lose it. Figure out what size that is here. I'm going to figure out that size and I'll be right back. So that looks like a 10 millimeter there. And we got that on there. So what I'm going to do is, you can see it's already starting to run out. Hopefully you can see that dripping down there. We're going to go ahead and put my one-man bleeder over that. Sit that up top out of the way. Hopefully somewhere where it won't fall. Not really too many places to put stuff. I'm going to get in and I'm going to pump the brakes up. And that's going to get the air out of this here. I'm going to do that now. Okay, it's a good amount of fluid we got through there, so that'll hopefully get the air out, and then I can go ahead and tighten this back up here carefully without letting any air back in. Okay, take that off, let that just run into the pan, into your catch pan. Go ahead and put our wrench back on there, make sure that's good and tight. And that is. Put our protective boot back on there. And then I'm going to grab a clean paper towel, a little bit of brake clean on it. And just get it on the rag here. Just give everything a nice wipe, make it look nice. Make sure, that way we can also look for leaks whenever we get this all put back together. Okay, so we got that all cleaned up. I'm going to pump up the brakes a couple times here. That moves nicely, as you can see. That's what it's supposed to. Make sure these pads go in and fill up that space. Take a look at that, and it did, so that's good. So as you can see here, hopefully you can see in this gap here, it filled, the caliper came out like it's supposed to. The piston made contact with the pad, everything's nice and secure. Just check for leaks, obviously. According to the internet, like I said, these are 23 pound-feet of torque. I don't think my torque wrench goes that low, and that's why it wouldn't click. So if you don't have a torque wrench, use common sense, because you will ruin the threads inside here. It's just like a cast aluminum, and you don't want to pull the threads out by over tightening, but you don't want them loose either. These here, according to the internet, you can look up your own specs back here, were 137 pound-feet of torque. I just went to common sense on this guy here. Once again, you don't want to pull the threads out, so be careful. If you have an aftermarket brake line like I do, you may run into that problem where that weird ear that sticks out there, you can see the red right here, wasn't allowing, it was too thick, the brake hose, to fit past it, and when I'd go to screw this in, the hole wasn't lined up, so it kept wanting to cross thread. So keep that in mind. I may actually reach out to PowerStop and ask them about that, because that doesn't seem like something normal, but it could also just be because I had an aftermarket brake line, and it was, you know, what caused it. There is a break-in procedure. I'll either put it at the beginning or end of this video for breaking these new rotors in. Make sure you have them, like I said, front driver's side on the right side. I'm not going to record the other side because it's literally identical to this side. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Once I do the other side, I will record and show you how to obviously put the wheel back on and torque all the lug nuts and everything. But that's pretty much it. That is your PowerStop front brake caliper, pads, and rotor kit. I recommend, like I said, replacing a brake line, or brake hose I should say, which mine, like I said, isn't that old, so I'm not worried about it. And It's also a good time to change the fluid, which once again, the fluid in this vehicle I flushed out, so it has mostly all new brake fluid. Make sure you pop your hood when this is all done, and also while bleeding the brakes, you want to make sure that you are checking the fluid reservoir for the brake fluid, which is located over here, obviously on the driver's side. It uses .3 brake fluid. Right now, if you look right there where my finger is, that's the line. So there's still plenty of fluid, but I don't want it to go any lower than that. So I'll add some more in here before I do the other side, and then when I'm all done, I'll check it again and make sure it's topped off with the .3 brake fluid. Once again, after you do all that, I'm not going to record me driving it just to keep this video is already getting pretty long. But once you're all done, you want to go and drive the break-in procedure where you make several stops but don't come to a complete stop at certain speeds, and I'll try to upload a screenshot of the PowerStop instructions for that. So hopefully this helps somebody out. Like I said, this isn't a great video if you're trying to do brakes and you're not replacing everything, because this cuts out a lot of steps because you're just putting all new stuff on. If I were to be doing regular brakes, I have videos for this exact vehicle doing regular brakes where I am not swapping anything out, where I have to clean the hardware and the bracket and the caliper and the face, and everything's all rusted and dirty, so you got to clean all that up because all you're doing is replacing the pads and the rotors. So it's going to be a little bit extra work, but it's actually less work if you're just putting all new stuff on, as you can see. The old rotors over here, just if you want to take a look at that, I'll show you real quick. Like I said, it's not the inside. This is very common in a rust belt. The inside wasn't making full contact, as you can see, and it just ruined the rotor. So this car should stop really well now. I'm actually really excited. I think this looks fantastic. Like I said, when you order these, make sure you get the ones that are according to what size wheels your vehicle has. If you have 15-inch wheels, make sure you order the kit that is for 15-inch wheels. If you go to PowerStop's website, it has a chart and a guide to walk you through that for the LeSabre, because these brackets are different sizes. So hope this helps. Like I said, I'll do one last clip here when I'm all finished doing the other side, showing you how to put the wheel back on. And I appreciate you guys for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Share this video if you find it helpful. And if PowerStop is watching this, hey, I'd love to have some kind of sponsorship for you, because I use your brakes on everything, and I like promoting them on my channel with my own funds. Thank you so much for watching. Okay guys, we are back, and I have finished the other side. It's done. It's all bled and taken care of. We're going to go ahead and throw this wheel back on now. According to the internet, like I said, look up your own torque specs, but according to the internet, it says 100 foot-pounds or pound-feet of torque for the lug nuts. I can get that on there. Little quick tip, I always start with the bottom lug nut first, because that seems to, wheel always wants to pivot out. I used some acid on these wheels, so they should look a little better now. They were kind of dirty. So I'll go ahead and put this back on there, and then I'll get my torque wrench. Once I get it sat back on the ground so the wheel doesn't spin, I will torque it with my torque wrench to 100 foot-pounds, because that's what the internet says. So go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to take it for a drive for the braking period. Follow that step. All right, so those. Like I said, I'll go back with the torque wrench here in a bit, make sure they're all even. That way this rotor gets a nice even pressure on it. So yeah, so like I said, clean up the wheels, and that is your finishing product there. Turned out really good. Everything fit good, looks beautiful, and yeah, I'll bring you in for a closer view of the other side too. So here's the other side. As you can see, it's all done too. Looks pretty good.